Interdimensional portals, badass warriors, and Josephine Baker? Episode 7 of Lovecraft Country is here, and holy crap was this a trip. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into the episode and explaining some of the cool things you may have missed along the way, including the time machine, Diana's comic, and the meaning behind Hippolyta's journey. So make sure to like and subscribe so you're notified as soon as one of my videos comes out. And two quick disclaimers. One, I haven't read the book, so you won't get any spoilers here. And two, this show deals heavily with issues of racial injustice, so if I've gotten something wrong, please leave me a comment or DM me. Oh god, I'm already getting flashbacks of grade 12 calculus. Hippolyta is here trying to unlock Hiram Epstein's orrery, which she took from Letty's house back in episode 3. She's come back from the ruins of Artem, where she found a burnt copy of Dee's comic, Erythia Blue. At the end of episode 4, Hippolyta and Dee found George's map, which circled Devon County, the location where Artem is located and where George died. She's been suspicious of Letty, Montrose, and Atticus' story about his death and goes to investigate. The burnt comic was proof that he was there, as it was given to George as a going away present from Dee in episode 1. We'll see Hippolyta become Erythia Blue over the course of her journey, an interplanetary discoverer who rides a spaceship, which we'll also see. Hippolyta even wears blue among the Artem ruins. She's able to unlock the orrery, which has a key and inscription. Every beginning is in time and every limit of extension in space, along with some coordinates. Now we'll see coordinates on the bottom left hand side of the screen throughout the episode, which denotes latitude, longitude, and a third, which I'm not a Ferdinand Magellan over here, but I'm guessing that's the z-axis, which denotes a specific point in time, or 3D space. You can actually go into Google Maps and insert these first two coordinates like I did here. The coordinates found on the orrery lead to a small field outside Kansas City, which is likely the location of the Winthrop Observatory where Hippolyta ends up. Now this isn't the first time this observatory has been mentioned. In episode 5, when Ruby finds herself in the closet, we hear Captain Lancaster and his men talk about how they made a deal with the local sheriff's department to look after the place, hence why two policemen show up later in the episode. Christina shows Ruby what's in her basement, the bodies of William and Hillary, who she's been using to concoct her shape-shifting potions. Ruby is pissed that Christina used her, but Christina says her feelings toward her were real.
The words may have come out of William's mouth, but they were mine.
I'm not exactly sure we can take Christina's word here. After all, she'll likely end up using Ruby to gain access to Letty's house, which she can't get into because of the force field. Christina has lied, cheated, and killed her own father to prove herself, so if she has to hurt Ruby in order to get what she wants, she won't think twice. Letty has a dream featuring Atticus' ancestor, Hannah, the same one who escaped Artem with the Book of Names. Letty is likely pregnant here, later getting nauseous at the smell of garlic, something she used to love. And it's no wonder this pregnancy lines up with her first dream of Hannah, since she now technically has the blood of Adam flowing through the child within her. Atticus has been unable to sleep after the mysterious die message he translated at the end of episode 5. He tells Letty that Hannah must have had the whole Book of Names, but he doesn't know where to find it since most of his mom's side was killed in the Tulsa massacre. Montrose wakes up to breakfast from Sammy, but things quickly turn cold when Montrose snaps back to reality. He can't have his neighbors knowing he's a gay man and pushes Sammy away, ultimately leading him to the hallway where he's discovered by Atticus and Letty. Tree hinted to Atticus that his father might be gay, but now Atticus knows it to be true, even calling him the F word in anger. As a child, Montrose beat up Atticus mercilessly so that he, quote, wouldn't be soft. As he explains to Letty, he now understands these beatings were never about him, more so about his father taking out his pain on his son. Ruby and Letty look after Dee while Hippolyta goes in search of her own answers, snubbing Atticus and Letty, who she knows weren't telling the truth about George. Dee also declines to go over the travel checklist, something she used to do with George. Letty apologizes to Ruby about not telling her about their mother's inheritance, which she used to buy the home, money which was actually from Christina Braithwaite. Ruby has been withholding the fact she's been romantically linked with Christina, so it's gonna be real interesting how this all pans out. On her way to the observatory, Hippolyta encounters a woman riding a blue motorcycle. This is a nod to iconic motorcyclist Bessie Stringfield, who was the first black woman to ride solo through all 48 US mainland states, including the Jim Crow South. This scene evokes a feeling of freedom, which becomes a main theme for Hippolyta in this episode. Atticus tracks down Miss Oberta, a friend of his mother's cousin, Ethel. We don't really get a lot of new info here, just that he discovers a photo of a woman with the same birthmark he has on his back. We don't get a name for who this is. Miss Oberta simply says, "Guess who this is?" but it doesn't look like his mother, so my guess is that it's his cousin Ethel. Letty ends up calling Atticus to tell him Hippolyta has the orrery, meaning she's likely in danger whatever she's up to. It's also important to note that Ruby is watching this happen. Whether this is because she's spying for Christina, we're not exactly sure. Hippolyta arrives at the observatory where she's able to get the machine to work before two of Lancaster's men arrive. Atticus has somehow made his way there in record time and is able to throw one of the men in an interdimensional portal before he and Hippolyta herself are sucked into different times. We get more coordinates here, even though we're either in the super far future or super far past, but my guess is that we're in the future since we see these robot-like entities. The coordinates here are the same as the observatory location near Kansas City. However, as we get more and more of these coordinates, a lot of them don't show up on Google Maps. It's either because I'm putting them in wrong or that location doesn't exist in Google Maps, perhaps because it's a different point in time. If you're interested in all the locations and where they exist in relation to one another and maybe want to try it out for yourself, check out the link I've left in the description to Sheriff O'Batty's post, who has a breakdown. Hippolyta is taken to this futuristic prison cell where her captor, billed in the credits as Serafina, aka Beyonce, play on words for Beyonce, holds her prisoner. She even has these metaphorical shackles on her wrists, something Serafina removes from her when she's completed her journey. And that's because Hippolyta doesn't realize she's enslaved. It isn't until she completes her journey that she's truly free. She sets forth through time, where she meets Josephine Baker, and if you don't know who she is, I highly suggest you look into her. Not only was she a headline dancer for the biggest revues in Paris, she was the first black woman to star in a major motion picture in 1927. She aided the French resistance in World War II and contributed heavily to the civil rights movement in the United States, where she was offered unofficial leadership following Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. It's by tasting this freedom, Hippolyta realizes how society, as Gretchen Smale of Bustle puts it, molded herself into the perfect stereotype, an obedient and deferential housewife who rarely objected to being trampled on.
And discover that all I ever was the exact kind of Negro woman white folks wanted me to be. I feel like they just found a smart way to lynch me without me noticing the noose.
The first step in her journey is about her realizing how she is enslaved. Maybe not like her ancestors were with physical shackles, but a new form of slavery. She's even honest with herself, telling Josephine that,
"Sometimes I want to kill white folks."
Just like she did before she entered the portal. But the person she's most angry at is herself.
Hate me for letting them make me feel small.
Also, bonus points if you notice the quick cameo of Mexican painter Frida Kahlo, a woman whose work explored questions of gender, race, and post-colonialism. So Hippolyta now has this pent-up anger, something she learns to harness in the second part of her journey, where she travels to a tribe of warrior women heavily based off the Mino, also known as the Dahomey Amazons. They were an all-female military regiment in what is now present-day Republic of Benin. It's here this modern-day slavery, which she learned in part 1, is expanded on by a warrior named Nawi. She explains how even though they are technically free, they still cook the white man's food, raise their children, and work for them. If she's going to overcome this new slavery, she must fight. And fight she does, as the tribe takes on a group of Confederate soldiers. I've heard a few people say they're not Confederates, rather white colonizers like the French legionnaires, but take a look at this side-by-side photo of these uniforms. I think it's pretty clear they're Confederates. The last line before Hippolyta moves on to the next part of her journey is very important.
I am Hippolyta, George's wife.
Her identity as a person is still shackled to that of a man. It's only until she confronts him in the final scene how she realizes George kept her small. She gave up her dreams of discovery to be the obedient housewife like society had conditioned her to be. She even says,
"When I was a kid, I thought I was big enough to have every right to name something out of this world.
Which is a callback to the story she told Dee in the planetarium about how she discovered a comet but didn't get credit for it because she was black. Her confrontation with George allows her to fully realize who she is. Not Hippolyta, George's wife, but Hippolyta the Discoverer, just like Orithia Blue. The shackles binding her to George dissipate, and the two go on the final part of her journey as equals, discovering new planets and species. Jazz musician and poet Sun Ra's words speak in the background, talking about how black people are a myth because they have no equal rights and no status among the nations. Hippolyta is now free and welcome to join Serafina in her society, but she chooses not to, instead learning that it may be too late for her to achieve what she wants, but it's not too late for Dee. She'll head back to Earth with her daughter. It's Atticus, however, who returns back first. We don't know where or when he's been, but he comes back with a book called Lovecraft Country written by George Freeman. So it looks like wherever he was an alternate time where George is still alive, and perhaps one in which Matt Ruff doesn't write Lovecraft Country, but George does. Upon hearing police sirens, Atticus rushes out, making sure to take the orrery key with him. But it's the final shot of Diana Freeman's name on the cover of Orithia Blue that's going to link this cop's murder back to Hippolyta. And with racist Captain Lancaster's men looking after this place, my guess is that they won't be following the law. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment below about what you thought of the episode. For more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.